Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another video, and welcome back to the best games of 2017. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And this is one of those video games that I'm going to tell you right up front, this game is not for everyone. It is just straight up not for everyone. But that's important. It is important for developers to work on video games that are not for everyone. That work on video games that are towards a specific niche of people, because those people will truly appreciate that niche. And what niche does Xenoblade Chronicles really go after? Well, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 goes after the Xenoblade Chronicles fans. That's exactly the type of people that will be playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Now, if you want to ask me whether or not should a new player jump into Xenoblade Chronicles 2, most definitely. If you see the gameplay and it looks like it's something that you'll enjoy, you should definitely try it out. You will most likely enjoy the game because it is much more approachable than any other Xenoblade title before it. It is a much more straightforward game to play at the start, and not only that, it actually managed to do a much better job of explaining the mechanics of the game to newcomers, because whereas Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles X kind of front-loaded all of the explanations, they would try to explain everything to you within the first 2 hours of the game, which is quite simply impossible because these are extremely complex games, and when you front-load all of those mechanics, players will not understand because it's too much information to absorb. I mean, maybe Japanese players will understand, but I can guarantee you that Western players will struggle with those mechanics for hours to come. I've struggled with those mechanics in Xenoblade Chronicles X for the longest time, and I've heard a lot of people that struggled with those mechanics in previous Xenoblade titles. However, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 does the best job it's ever done in the series of introducing new players to this specific genre. And I know that some people will be like, isn't it just like a JRPG? Yes and no, because the specific type of gameplay that you will experience in Xenoblade Chronicles is different. It's almost like a single-player MMO in a way, because the monsters have set levels. The monsters don't actually scale with you. So whether you go into a certain zone, even if it's just very close to your starting area, you might encounter really tough monsters that will one-shot you. I mean, just to give you guys an idea, one of the first towns that you will go into, right next to it, there will be a level 81 monster running around. And if he finds you, he will kill you. And even still, very close to that specific town, there's a cave, and there will be level 70-something creatures in there. And once again, they will kill you with one shot. But the thing is, those are areas you're meant to visit at a later date, obviously. But you are able to visit those areas if you're able to navigate through carefully enough without aggroing the mobs. And that presents certain challenges onto itself. And again, it is a game that is not for everyone, because not everyone is going to have the patience to deal with those kinds of mechanics. But to me, it is important that they're there. It is important because it crafts a unique experience. It crafts almost this stealth gameplay, with the exception that there's no weird stealth mechanics. It's just a straight up aggro range, just like you used to have back in MMOs. And maybe it just kind of gels better with me because I come from an MMO background. I used to play a lot of World of Warcraft, and for some reason, maybe that is what kind of brings this amazing side of things that is presented in Xenoblade Chronicles to me. I don't know if that is the case or not. Again, when it comes to combat, that game also follows the holy trinity of MMOs. You have your tanks, your healers, and your damage dealers, and you're going to need to have all of these in your party. Sure, you can try to have a party just of damage dealers, but you're probably going to struggle a little bit. But that's the beauty of it, finding that balance, figuring out how do you want to play it, how do you want to play this game, and experiencing that game in all the different ways that it can be experienced. But I'm talking like from both exploration standpoint, from the salvaging standpoint, because you'll be playing as Rex. Rex is a salvager, which really works well with the story, because usually in JRPGs and RPGs in general, what do you want to do? You want to get loot. You want to try to get as much loot as possible. So the fact that your character is a salvager, it means you can go and you can dive in and get random loot whenever you want. You just go to a friggin' point where you just like bring up salvaged goods. And sometimes you will get stuff that you can use to upgrade your blades, which are characters in this game. And There's so many good things about it that it's hard for me to bring it up. And I know that the elitists are gonna bring up, oh, but it's on such underpowered hardware. It's on the Switch. It doesn't look that great. And you're right. When it comes to resolution, you're absolutely right. I mean, just look at the Digital Foundry analysis. If you're playing it in undocked mode, that thing goes below 480p. You're right. When it comes to resolution, the game does not look particularly good. But it makes up for it with the art style and the art direction, which are fantastic.
Hike the bow, that one.
It has great art. It still creates an amazing world for you to explore. And isn't what people always say, gameplay over graphics? Well, it's time to put your money where your mouth is. Because this game is most definitely gameplay over graphics. There are concessions that are made. But there is also a beautiful art style in there. And there is an amazing story being told. This is a story that's managed to take me near to tears. We're currently, I believe in my playthrough, I've just been, I'm clocking in about 35 something hours. I'm a little bit beyond 35 hours at this point. And the game has managed to take me near to tears at least 3 times. And that is impressive because this, I don't know, maybe the story of Xenoblade Chronicles just really works well on me. I don't know. But I find the story that is being told in Xenoblade Chronicles to be fantastic. I think it's a really great story and I've enjoyed every moment of it. And the good thing about it is also that it manages to bring humor without being just a silly game all the time. And it manages to bring seriousness without just being this gritty, dull affair all the time. Because that's the thing. That's what really makes it. It's the contrast, right? The contrast of emotions that you feel. Like, if you're just someone who is experiencing something that is funny all the time, your brain just like becomes immune to it, and after a while, it's just not funny anymore. But if the game manages to successfully tell a story where there's serious moments and serious set pieces that have real consequences, the characters involved in the game, and depending on how invested you are in those characters, the game manages to do those serious moments and you're just like, whoa, you know, this thing just happened. And it was really cool that it happened, but fuck, it had all of these other implications in the story. And you know, you just have to, sometimes I almost feel like I have to stop for a while because of the way that things are happening in the game. And if it was always like that, then after a while, your brain would become immune to that as well. Your brain would be like, well, here's another fucked up thing about to happen, goddamn. But however, because it manages to introduce these not so serious moments,
What the bloody hell is this? Don't tell me this is meant to be me.
A remarkable likeness, to say the least.
Oi, did you see something?
No. I fear they may have conflated our countenances, my lady. How very awful.
like the character of Zeke that I don't want to get into too much, but there's always something funny happening whenever that guy shows up. And, you know, that manages to put in a little bit of a comedic break in between the serious moments that will definitely put a smile on your face. Or maybe even make you laugh out loud like it definitely did for me. I mean, if you guys have been watching the live streams, I've been having a blast with the game. And it's that contrast of showing you some funny things and then some serious things. It manages to really bring out certain emotions in you that I wasn't expecting. And that's where I stand on the story in that game. It's been fantastic. I've really been enjoying it. I haven't finished the game yet, obviously. There's still things that I haven't been exposed to. But, you know, on top of that, there's also the exploration side of things where you can, like I said, you can go into higher level areas and you can explore and you can get treasures and you can upgrade your blades. And when it comes to blades, the thing that they did with blades in terms of a storyline, because blades are essentially weapons, but they're weapons that have a personality. And the way in which it works, like the way in which they're working this into the story is just becoming more and more intriguing. Because like blades, they actually have feelings. They're not just like this item, you know? And the way it works for your characters in combat is great because you're essentially, you have this blade, right? That's constantly supporting you. It's essentially buffing you. You're a driver, the blade is buffing the driver the entire time that the driver is fighting. But whenever you do a special attack, what happens is you actually see your character throw the weapon back to the blade itself. So in a way, the blade wields itself to perform the special attacks, and it is brutally satisfying to watch from a gameplay perspective, but also just from like the whole thing where you're partners with this blade.
Healing!
What would you have me do?
Thanks.
Go for it!
My flames strike true!
Blade combo, third stage. Awesome.
Why not?
Hey, they deflected it!
Give it all you got!
You know, and there's this whole thing about how blades work and where blades came from and where humans came from, the origin story of everything. Just like the way it intersects the gameplay with the story elements and all of that is fantastic. Now, I'm not saying the game doesn't have its downsides, which it most definitely does. Specifically when it comes to some of the min-maxing of your characters, sometimes it can get incredibly overwhelming. And I remember when I first started playing the game, I was like, ooh, thank God we don't have a full set of armor like we used to have in Xenoblade Chronicles X. But it's almost as important as a full set of armor because you got your 2 accessories, then you got your blade's core chips, then you got your blade's auxiliary cores, then you got your blade's affinity charts, then you got the food that you need to eat and the drinks that you need to drink in order to unlock further things in the blades, and the special missions that you can do to unlock further things in the markets, and then the market, and the way that everything connects. Like, you could almost be just playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2. For like, right now at the point that I'm at, I think I could be playing the game for 10 hours, 20 hours straight, just interacting with all the different systems in that game without necessarily going back to the main story. As a matter of fact, in a way, a lot of times I'm almost scared of the things that I'm doing outside the main story because I feel like I'm getting over-leveled for the story. And I'm not even using the bonus experiences that you get on the inns to level up anymore. So, but I don't know, it's really great. And a lot of times when you have like certain fights where you can really let go, that's another bit of a downside, is that when your character gets a little bit too strong, sometimes it's hard for you to actually do all of the combos that you want to do in a fight because the monsters just die. Because the combat system is so complex that when you start getting into it, you're like, okay, so I know what I got to do. So I want to do this combo and that combo, and all the way that all those things work together just bring about bigger numbers and just bigger explosions and bigger animations.
Stop.
Me first.
Press the advantage!
Superb.
Get him, Nia.
On it!
You won't get far away. Elemental burst.
Be careful! Tora! Poppy, go! Go! Tora right here!
Astounding.
Happy spinning slash!
Let's keep it up.
Astounding.
Mithra.
Just let me handle it. Photon! I'll keep you safe!
Get him, Nia.
Rurikhan! Ready
Work
or
hard.
go research hard!
Elemental burst.
Tora! Poppy! You're out! Help! Tora! Right on time! Storm!
Down.
And another one.
Magnificent.
Hit it. No.
Lightning! Bust!
Magnificent.
Get him, Nia.
Rurikhan! Ready or go multi!
Mortal Storm.
Magnificent.
Oh, shut
Enemy
up.
down.
And you're constantly trying to get those attacks to go off. And then it's like, if it just happens to be a lowly creature, you're just like, okay, I'm gonna start combo number 1 and he's dead. And you're like, man, but I want to do combo number 2 or number 3 and put the 3 orbs in there and then shatter them. And you want to do all those things. And then it's like, it's almost like, this was something that I was saying in a live stream recently. A lot of times in combat, you almost feel like you're Superman. You're kind of holding back against some of these monsters. Then when you find a really tough monster, you're like, oh, now I can really go all out. It does give you that feeling, which is why whenever I find like the actual special monsters that you can fight that are a little bit tougher than regular monsters, I always go after them and I just take them on. Just like be like there for 5 minutes just beating on them. It's very satisfying. I don't know. There's just something not just something, there's a lot of really good things about Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and that's why I personally think it's one of the best games of 2017. And I've heard a lot of people do some really heavy criticism on Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and I'm okay with it, because like I said, this game is not for everyone, and that's fine. And if anything, I want more developers that work on games that are not for everyone. Because guess what? When you craft a very directed experience for a very direct audience, that just means that that audience is going to have a much better experience than if you were crafting something that is trying to get a wider appeal. Like look at Dark Souls 2, that was trying to get a wider appeal. Guess what? A lot of the people in the Dark Souls community did not enjoy it. I'm not saying I didn't, I enjoyed Dark Souls 2, not as much as I enjoyed the other ones. But see, that's the point that I'm making. It's important to have games like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 because not that many games took me near to tears in their story this year, even though we've had fantastic stories. But due to the fact that Xenoblade Chronicles is an extremely directed experience for people like me, it resonates that much more, and it makes it that much more of an important title to have. And that's, in my opinion, why it's one of the best experiences of 2017. Again, for me, maybe it's not for you, and that's okay. Just keep that in mind. It's okay for people to have different opinions, because I've seen like Jason Schreier was like attacked on his Twitter because he said he didn't like Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Like I said, it's not for everyone, and that's okay. You don't have to attack other people. They're entitled to not like the games that you don't like. That's fine. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.